Hello, I'm some asshole on the internet and I'm wearing my Ninja Turtle shirt today. See, you know how Leonardo has the L and they all have the other letters of their names and such? I'm still trying to figure out what turtle this is supposed to be. Maybe it's the Ninja Turtle? Turtle Angelo? I used to be decent friends with Tonka online. January, February of last year, and earlier. Hung out with him and Vamp Candy and Failure and Ian Miles Chung. I mean, a lot of names that don't exactly have the highest regard right now. But all we did was, like, play Grand Theft Auto and bullshit in Google Hangouts, and, like, that was about it. I knew nothing about Ian Miles Chung at the time. I knew nothing about Tonka at the time. I knew nothing about Failure or anybody else. Since then, I'm extraordinarily comfortable saying that Failure is a good person. I have no problem with that. If I didn't, I'd just straight up say it. He'd be listed in this video right along everybody else I'm going to criticize, but Failure is a good person. He is just somebody whose heart is so goddamn big that he can actually turn off that part of his brain that kind of the part of your brain that doesn't rationalize certain things. You know, like, Tonka's doing this, but this is what I do. You know, it's one of those I was just following orders type things. You know, like, how much blame do you give the man, and what is it that you blame him for? I've been good friends with Failure for a long time, and his pattern of behavior is he's always trying to get somewhere and create something, but he can never exactly get there because he's always getting stomped on by every fucking person that wants to come along and be like, hey, you know how to talk to people, you know how to do this, you know how to do that, do it for me. And then they do. And then Failure ends up just towing the line because now he wants to, you know, help so-and-so and so-and-so because maybe he wants to grow. Maybe he wants to get his channel a little larger. Maybe he wants an audience. Tonka, he came off... I recognized the type. I didn't recognize that he was such a liar, though, which is incredible. I'm usually really adept to that, but he had me fooled. A lot of people say the exact same thing, so kudos to him for that. You know, I can't help but appreciate the effort made there, but eat a bag of dicks. I just saw a guy who, you know, liked to puff out his chest, and I just assumed it's, you know, young man shit. You know, young man, they like to puff their chests out and say, hey, I'm the biggest fucking cat here. And I was so guilty of that when I was young. So very guilty. So I recognize it. And I can't help but be like, you know, okay. Like, if I tell him, you know, that you're acting a certain way, then I'm being a hypocrite because I did the exact same thing. So I never really looked at it as anything more than him being kind of like a wrestling personality and doing everything over the top and doing everything through a wrestling lens, you know, like taking a wrestling format and bringing it to a web show. It's a fascinating idea, and it did work. Unfortunately, Tonka is not a good person. Can he be a good person? I've seen him be a good person. In person. Wait, no, not in person. In person while online. Well, in person communicate. I might have smoked before this. But one-on-one, he seems like a decent dude. But then he turns around and does some incredibly shady shit. And I saw that I was being drawn into it last year. I didn't want to be part of Bloodsports or Kumite or Warski or anything like that. I didn't want anything like that. All I wanted to do was hang out with, like, Failure and a bunch of other people and goof off and you know, shitpost and have a good time. You know, like, 100 or so people in a chat and like just make a full-on show for them. You know, no drama, no fighting, no antagonizing people for weeks and weeks and weeks. I don't think I really judge people who like the blood sports genre. It's just, it's too combustible. It is always going to blow up in somebody's face. I haven't seen a single time where it hasn't in the last year. Worski blew himself up, rebuilt himself. Tonka blew himself up. I don't think he's going to be rebuilding himself. Ian Miles Chung, he strapped a fucking nuclear warhead to himself and just walked into a fucking school. He's like, fuck it. If I'm going to go with everyone hating me. So one day I'm bullshitting on Google. Yeah, it was Google Hangouts. Fairly sure. Not that really fucking matters one way or the other. But I was bullshitting with him and he said, hey, you want to sit on a call with Mr. Mediker? I'm like, oh, I know who that is. I've followed Jim since, Jim was Jim. That's been somebody that I've followed quite consistently as time has gone on. Do I agree with Jim on everything? No, but I appreciate an attitude of I don't give a fuck. That is a great attitude to have. Tonka does not have that ability because he does not have the ability to make himself not give a fuck. He'll puff his chest out all day and say, hey, I don't give a fuck. Yeah, you very, very much do, to the point that you alienated every single person you know. So anyway, I'm in this call with him and Mediker. And he says, okay, will you record it? Because we're going to be talking about possibly, I might get swatted because Kumite is taking off. And I don't want to, I want to have a record of it. And I was like, okay, does everybody know about this? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. And I sat in on that call. And I listened to the conversation. I hung out. I even talked a bit with the Mediker, and he's a decent gentleman, and honestly, it was a decent conversation, and most of it just came down to Mr. Mediker saying, call your local pizza places and tell them not to deliver. Literally, that's what the call was almost entirely about. And so through context during this call, I caught on that not everybody in the call knew that it was being recorded. I had been lied to. And as such, I never gave Tonka that recording. And I actually completely forgot about it until recently. And I was moving some streams around, and I was like, what is this recording? I was like, holy shit. Kudos to that. That on its own, I wouldn't have thrown Tonka under the bus at all. I if he had just lied to me and I caught on and that was the end of it, and I distanced myself after that day, and honestly, I did not miss his company all that much, and it very much felt to me like he was trying to distance himself from me too. He was just like, well, fuck, this guy isn't going to provide me with anything. He only helped me set up the OBS shit for Kumite, create sets for it, create art for it, teach you how to use it. Yeah, I was instrumental in Kumite's development. And I was going to continue on as a producer. But I asked Tonka for one thing, and one thing only. That I did not want to participate in the blood sports stuff. I don't have the disposition for it. I fly off the handle. This is not an okay, scenario for me. I don't want that. So as such, I said, I'm not going to be part of that. The very next day, he yanked me into a call with Andy Worski, who I had some sort of, I forget what it was. We had some sort of conflict, but, Andy has conflicts with everybody at some point in time. I forget what it was, but I was mad at Andy Worski. And Tonka had hyped that up and then, got Andy all worked up. and then threw me in the call and was just like, okay, like, these two are just going to tear each other up. And to a degree, it wasn't all that interesting. I yelled at him, he yelled at me, and that was the extent of it. And I didn't want to participate, and I didn't do a damn thing for him after that. After, like, dealing with the phone, first off, not phone call, Jesus, I'm a dinosaur, the Discord, no, not Discord, Google Hangout call, that was the first red flag. The second red flag was that, or I started to just see this pattern of non-stop dishonesty. And I let it go because, like, it was always done under the guise of, being acting like a wrestling promotion. A lot of bravado, a lot of over-the-top, threats and, things like that. Silly shit. Things that people all know aren't real, but they all get together and pretend together as, an audience that what they're seeing is actually real. I don't think Tonka knows how to separate the two. I legitimately think that he does not understand how people work. I almost feel like he was raised by wrestling, if it makes any sense. Because if you think about it, he comes from that, era when kids watched a lot of wrestling. I mean, shit, even I watched a lot of wrestling when I was a kid. WWF in the 80s. I had Hulk Hogan versus fucking Andre the Giant. Then it went all the way up to Stone Cold versus The Rock. And then a one-legged wrestler joined, and I was like, fuck this noise. This is getting dumb. So I was just like, okay. It's all character. But at the same time, I'm like, he's yanked me into this call to start a conflict that I definitely didn't want to be part of. And I helped him set up his show, and he just completely ignored me after that. And then, what else was there? The phone call, or the Google call that I was told that everyone knew, that basically he made me secretly record people. I have that on me now. I secretly recorded people without their knowledge, and I didn't even realize it, because I did it without my knowledge. That's some fucked up shit. That's some lazy, Machiavellian, fucking B-list shit. You are absolutely reprehensible. I distance myself from him. Months go by. Weeks go by. Failure comes and, says, hey, what are you doing? Him and I are pals. We're still pals at this point. We still are right now. And I hope to continue to be friends with him until the foreseeable future, because the dude is good. He says to me that they're doing this thing called Bloodapalooza. And Bloodapalooza, I haven't the fucking foggiest what the hell it was. It's some sort of blood sports combination of some shit. I don't fucking know. But anyway, he, through Failure, said, hey, we want to donate the proceeds of that to charity. And we want to donate it to your charity. My charity being the Larkin Street Youth Center here in San Francisco. And that is a very important thing to me. And I told them, hey, you're going to be expecting, maybe even a few $1,000s. And I was so excited. Oh my God, I was so excited. I told them all that it was coming, and we're talking about getting socks. That's the big thing. If you ever have a chance to donate something to a homeless shelter, socks. Oh my fucking God, socks. But anyway, talking about getting socks and maybe replacing a few things and helping out a few kids. Money never came. Money never came. And once again, I sucked it the fuck up. And I fucking apologized profusely to the charity that I promised money to. And honestly, I've brought in a lot of money for them over the years. So, like, weren't overly disappointed. But I promised more than I could deliver because I was trusting a man that couldn't deliver. Just like you, Wang. So, time goes on. And you know what happens? I don't participate in any of that shit anymore. I barely talk to failure. I barely talk to anybody over on that side of the world. I want nothing to do with it. Not my scene, not my thing to deal with. A couple of people were critical of Tonka on Twitter, and then like on a YouTube video, and I, there was a YouTube video. I'm not quite certain. I hypocrite maybe. I can't remember, but like they uploaded a video about Tonka welching on a bet. And I brought up in the comment section, I was like, yeah, he did something similar to me. He promised money for this thing, and then he never delivered. And then Tonka went on a warpath. Oh, this guy's crazy. He's fucking a liar and a piece of shit. Oh, Jesus Christmas Christ. And I didn't do shit to the guy. I have not done a single thing to him. He made me secretly record people. He made me get into a fight with somebody that at the time I was supporting and I didn't want to get into a fight with. He promised me charity money that he never fucking delivered on. He kept people hostage. He kept people hostage by his show. Failure didn't want to be part of that shit. He had no choice after a while. It was like fucking, what is it? Stockholm Syndrome. So he's taking all kinds of shots at me, and people are coming out of nowhere saying, hey, Tonka took a shot at you. And you know what I told him? Don't care. Go about my business. Somebody else comes by. Tonka took a shot at you. I don't care. Then it just started to turn into a constant thing. Just like, hey, Tonka's talking about you. He's talking about you. Talking about you. Motherfucker, I have done nothing except fucking help you with every single thing that I have ever done. And you have done nothing but lie and disappoint. And for what? What did any of that get you? Oh, and I should probably explain the excuse for the charity, because this one was gold. So, he tells me, and let me preface this, I've been working with charity a long fucking time. A long time. So, when this happened, I was... But the reason, he says, is because he couldn't get their permission beforehand to raise funds for them. And, by law, you have to get their permission in order to get funds for them. That's complete and total bullshit. It was a full out-and-out lie. And I knew it was. And I even went as far as to talk to the shelter's attorney. I actually called her, and I set up an appointment, and I went in, and she basically said, yeah, anybody, they could have given all that money. They could have given more. And they say, people try that with politics all the time. They say, Nazi communists of America, and then they send a check to some politician just because they know that now they've got that little ha-ha. Okay, well, thanks for the money, stupid. I don't support your ideology, but I'll take your money. So at this time, I'm just like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And then, I was just like, okay, well, I'll get their permission. And I did. And I passed along that information. Dead silence. Dead air. And I was just like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And then, all those months later, almost a year later, just casually mentioning it in comments of a YouTube video, he decides to go on this fucking warpath on me for the better part of a few months, and I didn't even know it. He's just taking shots at me. Didn't even know it. Mostly because I didn't care. I don't follow him. I don't think he follows me. Uh, so it was irrelevant to me, but it just kept coming up and kept coming up, and I kept seeing it. I kept seeing him pop into live chats that I was in and go, well, you fucking liar. I'm just like, Jesus fucking Christ. This guy is like a crazy ex-girlfriend. So failure comes to me eventually, and he's just like, I'm just tired of this bullshit. I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to do goofy streams where we watch commercials and goofy videos and stuff. I don't want this drama shit anymore. And I had just, come across that recording, the one that I spoke of earlier from the year beforehand of, Mr. Medicare, the one that I was told that I was, I had permission to record, but I did not. So I took that call and I put it in a folder and I asked Failure, did you know about this? And he didn't. Failure didn't even know of it. Now, Failure hasn't been dishonest with me very often. And when he has been, it's usually benign. But this wasn't instantaneous. No, that's I had no idea of that. Complete and total honest confusion. And I took it, and I believe him. And I believe that he doesn't want to be part of that world, and I believe he just wants to do fun streams where they watch videos and wrestling and do fun shit instead of fight people all the time. So I took that recording, I uploaded it to YouTube. It's on this channel, but it's unlisted. And I sent it to Ralph, from the Ralph Retort. And I sent it to Zeph. I sent it to Zeph. I sent it to half a dozen people. I even clipped out some of the highlights. It wasn't embarrassing for Medicare. It wasn't embarrassing for Failure. It wasn't embarrassing for Vamp or me. But it was humiliating for Tonka because this thing is packed to the brim with him bullshitting. I mean, lie, 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 lie after lie after lie after lie after lie. Oh, and I put him on blast about the charity shit that he fucking... Well, he didn't steal. He just got money that he promised someone else and then didn't give it to them. Because I guess he doesn't count, technically. Sorry, I'm trying to work with Tonka logic. Some people are snakes, and you can't help it. And even somebody like me, I think I'm all street smart and shit, and I can pick out a liar out of a fucking million people, and, I'm so astute. Dude fooled me. Completely fooled me. I thought he was completely on the real the entire time. At one point in time, I thought he had a glass eye. But he doesn't. Much like everything else. That was a wrestling gimmick, by the way. I'm not saying that he actually said he had a glass eye. I don't want any confusion, because if there's one thing wrong, then it's going to be concentrate on that, not the argument. But much like me, every single person that came into his world was just another step on a ladder, and all those steps were made out of people's backs. Step on one person's back to the next, to the next, to the next. Thanks for the help, stupid. Now I've moved on. It's never about anything except Tonka with Tonka. Even with poor Vamp. God damn, poor Vamp is... She's a confusing girl to me. She's somebody who I think is just infinitely sweet and infinitely intelligent and just fierce. But she also has this side of her, and I can't help but compare her to Harley Quinn, to Tonka's Joker. Like Harley Quinn was an extremely intelligent person and beautiful and all this stuff, but one fucking crazy-ass batshit person thrown into the mix, then nothing else mattered except for that person. She has what experts like to call Tonkholm syndrome. And I hope she escapes him just like everybody else does. And, I mean, she's the only one left. I really do hope she escapes that guy. That's not a healthy relationship. That is really an unhealthy one. And honestly, I think I'm done talking about the subject. I think I've said all I have to say about the subject. I feel lifted, like a weight has been removed. I don't believe in karma, but I do believe that if you're a continuous asshole and you treat people shitty and you lie to them constantly and you steal from people and you lie and you treat people like garbage and manipulate and, well, good way to end up alone.